we've just had a look at the concave and convex stuff. What I want to start looking at next is something called points of inflections. And the points of inflection. So at the moment I've got this cubic curve, and hopefully you can recognise that the blue line is the tangent to the curve at a series of points, and at the moment I've just letting the animation run, so that point is moving along the curve. And what I want you to do is have a quick think about what's going on with the gradient. If you had to explain to someone who was visually impaired, for instance, and couldn't see what was going on, how would you describe the blue line? So can you just have a think about that, pause the video, and then come back to me, please. So hopefully you see as the gradient comes in from the left and moves to the right, it starts off very positive. Here it comes again. Starts off positive, still positive, still positive, then it goes negative, and then it goes back positive again. Now, that's probably not particularly interesting at the moment. However, if I can pause this, there we go. Possibly just move B around. You'll notice at this point here the gradient's positive, however the gradient's decreasing. You'll notice the gradient's decreasing still now. It's getting less steep, it's getting less steep, it's getting less steep, it's still getting less steep. Yes, it goes 0 here, however it's still getting less steep, it's still getting less steep, still getting less steep, and it's not until we get to here that it stops getting less steep and then starts to increase again. It starts to get steeper and steeper from this point here. It starts to get steeper, 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 and it goes crazy. Let's just play that through again so you can see that. So it's really steep, getting less steep, getting less steep, getting less steep, starts to increase its steepness again. Okay, so this point in the middle here is quite important. It's a point which we call a point of inflection, and it's to do with where the gradient basically stops getting less steep and starts to getting steeper again, or vice versa. So the way we can look at that is by drawing over the top of this a couple of other lines. So we've got this red line here, this is the gradient function, and you'll notice that this seems to happen at the it should be at the station. It's not just at 1, is it? It must be a bit to the right. Happens at the stationary point on the gradient function, and hopefully you'll also notice if I draw a line through those and just take the tangent off for a sec because there's too much going on. Hopefully you'll notice that that turning point lines up with when the second derivative of the function is 0, and that all lines up with this inflection point here. Here's the inflection point. The red curve is the gradient function dy dx. So the point of inflection occurs when dy dx is at a stationary point, and also it occurs when the second derivative is 0. Okay, so this is just one particular example. I'm now going to go through a few other issues with this, but this should be your first thoughts about things when you're thinking about inflections, that you've got the gradient function's stationary point and the second derivative is 0.